Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To some and peace out to the rest of you. Blackheart, the blackest man on social media, signing black in and shining black in again, asking you to hit that share button. Thank you if you have hit like or subscribe. But hey, look, the share button is more important because the message is more important than the messenger. In listening to more of Mr. Samuels, because I logged in to upload the last one, and then some of his came up on the right side, recent ones, I want to give some pointers to young guys that are seeking out advice from men like him, roughly the same age and of the same training. What I'm seeing is a pattern, and that is that men who are now in their early 20s are vastly different. They, I think they are somewhat delusional. They're not ready for Mr. Samuels. Mr. Samuels' abruptness is not born out of hatred, but it appears to me after listening to several more that it is a reaction. It is a reaction to early 20-something guys who will call in because they're willing to confront, but they don't know how. And they're also delusional about how women are going to spot them. The funny thing about this is that Mr. Samuel said, you don't say anything about the fishers. You don't say anything about the fish for not being caught. You say something about the fishermen. What bait are they using? And you look at the fisherman who catches the most fish and you follow suit. However, this analogy doesn't hold water for this reason. The first reason it doesn't hold water, and by the way, let me warn you all now, if the students who interrupted my recording yesterday knock on my door, I'm not going to pause the tape. You're going to hear me cursing them out. I'm not going to open up for them, and I'm not going to, and I'm going to keep on recording for you. Because yesterday they did it 3 times. When I said that Bedouins are niggers, that was the reason. So going back to this. These young men somewhat are delusional, but he used the analogy about not teaching the fish, but rather teaching the fishermen. But the analogy does not hold water, literally, all puns intended, because it doesn't hold fish in this case, because you see, fish don't want to be caught. They want the bait, and they don't know it's bait. They don't complain when they're not caught. They don't send up prayers to God that they get caught. They don't pray for the fishermen. There's no cooperation. It's not a seduction when you go fishing. I mean, there's bait, but you were deceiving them, and you're deceiving them so that you eat them. And then you spit out and you shit out the bones. If we can compare women to fish, then that says a lot about women. That says worse about women than anything I've ever wanted to say when I record these recordings. But these young men are delusional because this is what they've been taught. Somebody sat them down when they were younger and told them in other TV series, hinted to them, and even older men than themselves, not necessarily old, but just older men than themselves who did not pay attention to the games women play, told him that woman's going to come along. A woman's going to come along. Are you kidding me? And see, whatever they did not have when they were young is what they were told they needed, so then they go out and they get that, and then they find out that that's not enough. No, it's time somebody goes and says to the fish, like I said in the last one, someone tells the fish, if you are praying to be caught, then Yeah, if you're praying to be caught, then let's call it what the hell it is. You're acting more like a fish than a woman. Another analogy used, and I'm actually recording this to advise the young men in this one, not so much to advise Mr. Samuels. I did that in the last one. This one is for the young men. But one of the things I would say too was that there was an analogy that he used regarding playing video games. And people will say, oh, the internet connection's bad. I hit the controls and they didn't work. They're not working. You know, I don't know about the internet when you're playing against someone else, but what I can say is that when you are playing and you hit the controls and they don't respond, that's the controls, it's not you. If you hit the sequence so that you block a blow that you see coming and it just doesn't respond and you get hit, the controls effed up and not you. The question is that legitimately what happened, or are you just angry and you say it? Or did you hit the sequence but simply not quickly enough? And it's hard to tell at times. All of these three happen, all of these three are possibilities. It may be hard to know for each individual case. But there is such a thing as you hitting the controls but simply not quickly enough. My question is, if women are independent and women are heterosexual and they're liberated, why is it this damn difficult? That would be my question. I mean, do they like you or not? Do you at least have a chance from the beginning or not? If you can strike out because you wore the so-called wrong color shirt on the second date, or you can lose her inches because you wore the wrong color shirt to school or to class, be it in college or high school. She was looking for a reason to eliminate you anyway. That's not someone to pursue. The thing is, most Western women are going to be trained to do this by the time, even before they're women, when they're still little girls. They're trained, and I don't know who tells them this, because I've never heard this conversation I've never heard it take place between any two females, but they try to eliminate even men they like. I mean, girls will start to like someone, but they don't want to like them. They just like them anyway. So they will look for reasons to convince themselves they don't like them anymore. I've seen that happen. I was told that this had happened in my case more than once. I talked about that in 2017. I explained it more in 2018. This happened in 2001. So these young guys, they are delusional. That's true, they are. But the reason that they're delusional is because, you see, these fish are lying about the bait they want in the first place. Other fishermen who have been lied to by the fish about the bait they want are giving bad information. Well, you know, the fish want you to have an education and the means to make a living and some stability. Oh, so since I'm still in college or in high school, I don't have that yet. Oh, okay. So I should focus on that, then focus on the women. Oh, okay. So they focus on that. Then when they get out, they don't really meet many of them. The ones they do meet are all about business. They have maybe a job, maybe some stability, if they're lucky enough in the job market. And then what? Oh, they still don't have something. So let's call it what the hell it is. The fish are changing the goalposts. They're lying about the bait they want. This is why you young men are delusional. You're not really delusional per se. You just got lied to. You've been deceived. But let me tell you young guys something about how you can get more benefit from someone like Kevin Samuels, because I'm recording this one to advise you. You young guys have a way you communicate. It's very weak, to tell the truth. This is something that's going to be held against you in all areas of life. It is unfair that women will hold this against you because the women talk the same way in your age group. Matter of fact, they've been doing that since my age group, since my day. It's just that we men were still trained to talk differently to a certain extent, and the women, as much as they could just subconsciously evaluate the way we speak, the fact remains that they didn't learn to speak in as calm a manner and as confident a manner. They can sound like women. Their voices are going to be different from ours anyway, but they sound weak and childish when they even get old. And I got sick of it. Saying like all the time, that's not a good look for any man. Using filler words is not a good look for any man. Saying basically all the time is not a good look for any man. Also, saying to guys our age that women were somehow supposed to see the good in you without you saying anything to them, to us that sounds completely illogical. I don't fault Kevin Samuels when he has a reaction to something like this. I think his reaction to that is actually very tempered and controlled. I don't blame you for saying that because I know you were lied to. This is what you were told. I get it. I simply wanted you to understand that and I am in between most of your ages and Kevin Samuel's age. That's why I can compare these two mindsets and contrast them as well. But even for my mindset, for the mindset of those in my age group, that sounds dumb as hell. You just didn't know it did, and I don't fault you for not knowing. I don't. What I would say is that there is a way you would need to communicate as a whole, as an entire age group. No like, no don't always say I think or I feel. Also add into that I observed, I saw, I know someone who observed and reported. Say it like this. That's the other thing. He has said that many of you do talk very nasally. That's not a good look for a man. And if a woman does it, here's the thing though, to make this fair, because you're looking and saying, oh my God, this sounds so personal. If you talk like that, yeah, take it personally. Go ahead. You didn't know? Okay, fine. I'm letting you know now. But what I'm going to tell you is this. When you make the change for your own benefit, independently of the women, which is a good thing to do, when you make that change, start to notice these things in the women and hold it against them. Not out of vengeance, but just strictly out of justice. So when you remove like from your vocabulary, except either as a verb or as a method of comparison, meaning similar to, and you get rid of filler words in your speech, when you limit your use of I think and I feel, I'm not saying eliminate, but when you limit the use, when you add in the use of I observed, so-and-so reported as he observed, and you start putting in facts to justify whatever conclusions or thoughts or feelings you have, and your speech becomes more concrete and concise. You will benefit in other areas as well, but the other thing that will happen is that you will have every right, and you actually should have the natural instinct to start scrutinizing women for this. Don't let them come to you with that. It's not okay when they're always talking, they're saying like, I think and I feel, because that actually sounds very teenage valley childish in all honesty. And when you're an adult, you shouldn't talk like that, man or woman. It is your job to become a man. And you did not have as much help as previous generations had with that. I admit that. I don't fault you for that to a certain extent. However, what even older men have not told you, and what I'm telling you, is that it is not your job to become a man just to qualify for an overgrown child. No. If you become a man in a spiritual sense, in a psychological sense, you lose your manhood when you give that penis to a child. And if she's psychologically a child, it is the same damn thing. Your manhood's gone at that point. You acquired it just to squash it and kill it. If you got to be a man, an adult man, and God damn it, she's got to be an adult woman. So take what he says about developing manly characteristics and traits just for your own benefit in general, to be honest. But your concern is the women, naturally. And it's okay that you are concerned about them. They are concerned about your gender, Maybe not you as an individual, but they're concerned about your gender. Overall, they're actually concerned about the attention they get from your gender. But when it comes down to this, gentlemen, keep this in mind. And don't forget this. They have never been forced to grow up. So now when you yourself are psychologically grown, you were in a position at that point to say to them, now, okay, I grew up. Now you're looking at me. Well, I grew up. It's your fucking turn. Now you grow up. And when they want to come and say stuff like, well, I don't really need to, I don't have to have game, or I don't have to have maturity or these things because I'm a woman, that's when you say to them, no. If you don't have these things, you're not a woman. You're a girl. And I am a man, grown ass man. I got limits, human limitations and weaknesses. I'm capable of feeling fear, but I am still a man, grown adult ass man. And I do not fuck children. I do not date children. I do not tongue kiss children. I don't hold hands with children unless they're really small and I'm walking with them. I do not have romantic or sexual relationships of any kind with children. You make them understand this. The day that you join our ranks in this regard as men, and the day that my age group and his age group and your age group say with a unified voice exactly this, whether we are in the east or the west, north, south, wherever the hell we are, the day we say this is the day that mothers now have to tell their daughters something completely different. And it is also the day that mothers will stop and say, you know what, maybe I can't tell my son what he needs to know about women, even though I should be able to, because I can talk a mile a minute as a woman about everything else in life. But since I can't do it for whatever reason, I'm not going to interfere if a trustworthy adult man tells my son what he needs to know about women. I'm going to fuck the shuck up. Get it? Because right now, he's right about one thing. You young guys sound like kids. You sound younger than you are. I've heard this as a pattern. Now that I've listened more and more, that is true. I don't completely fault you for it, like I said. But you all need to know, and frankly, you all need to spread this among each other. You need to share this information with each other, whether you share my video or whether you paraphrase what I'm saying. Either one is just as fine as the other. There is a way that adult men talk, and you all need to pay attention to it and learn it. Less I think and I feel, especially if you don't have I observed, I was told from a reliable source in order to back up your I thinks and I feels. You can have opinions, that's fine. If you're going to say I think and I feel, but I don't have proof of it, you can simply say mine is just a hunch. I have a thought, I've got a feeling, I got an opinion. It's just a hunch, that's all. And if one of you knows something else more, I'm listening. See, this is how men talk. Men don't talk at either extreme per se. They do not talk like they know everything, and they do not only talk about how they think and feel without any knowledge to back it up or substantiate it on. If they only can have an opinion or a conclusion as a guess, they will usually say, mine is just a guess. I'm willing to listen to what people actually have observed about this particular topic or subject because I may need to update my opinion. And I'm all ears from whoever knows more. You see, this is a very objective and fair way to talk as a man. Y'all need to learn that. I learned it about age 19. I learned some of it when I was younger, but I learned more of it at about age 19. By 21, I was used to talking this way. When I started I remember class I took my last year of college, but it was my first semester that year. I remember that class. We had a professor who was a real piece of work, and everybody and everyone that majored in my major had to take that class. It didn't matter what your concentration was. You had to take this class. It was hard as hell, and that's why that department required that class for graduation, just to make sure that you had to go through some stuff you don't want to go through. Was that elitist and crap? Yes, it was. But when I started the class, I went to the professor in the first week and I said, look, I'm willing to do the work. I just got to know what it is. I didn't understand what you were saying in the classroom that day. Well, I'm not trying to be coy, Mr. Blackheart, but I'm really not. But what I want you all to do is get away from the I thinks and I feels. Take the evidence and come up with a plan of action, but factor in the evidence that's there on their websites and everything. Factor that in and then proceed from there. I mean, I'm really okay with whatever conclusions or plan of actions you draw that are based on the real data that's on their sites and that they've dealt with. Oh, got it. Thanks a million, doctor. Appreciate that. Appreciate your time. All right. I'm not going to speak for my teammates in the absence, but I'm going to take what you said and I'll tell it to them. That's what I'm going to do. My group did fine. As a group, we did okay. But when he said get away from the I thinks and I feels and factor in the evidence first, that was the turning point for many of my classmates, not just teammates, but classmates. This got many of them to vent less often and focus more. Then vent if they needed to. You're human. You'll have times you got to vent. But Mr. Samuels is dead on about something. You can't vent to women. Now, can you tell women, hey, look, I'm sick of all this venting. Can you tell them that? Well, if you're not venting and you are actually behaving as a man and you're doing all you can to actually solve real problems and prevent problems and create benefits to the best of your ability, you have every right to say to them, I'm only going to tolerate so much venting. If they insist, you have a right to go back and vent to them just because you had to listen to this stuff. Go ahead. But he's right about one thing. Women do not like that. It does bother them. They're not fully aware. They do it, but they don't like it. And actually, I shouldn't say women. Girls insist on doing that, but they can't tolerate it when men do it and are not even fully conscious of it. You have to fight against this. But one of the reasons that they feel so comfortable doing all this venting with men is because men tolerate it when they vent because we want the draws. You see, they don't tolerate it when men vent because they want Superman. And Superman has no reason to vent. These weak creatures are assessing you for strength, and they're going to continue doing so. But when you can show them this strength, even though you will have human limitations and weaknesses, you're in a position to do exactly what the hell they need somebody to do, if you want to stay in this environment that you're in. Now, my black ass got a passport for different reasons, came over here and realized, you know what, this is far better. Definitely. But if you plan to stay in that environment, which I don't recommend, then you got a lot of work you're going to have to do, guys. Mr. Samuels, he's got something he's got to work on naturally, but you know we all do. But then you got stuff you got to work on. And when you get to this level, then you can, with a united voice, say what I said to you before. You don't want to hear all that venting when you learn to stop venting. You have every right to say to them at that point, I don't feel like listening to all this damn venting. Now, I don't mind you describing the problem so we can come up with something. Well, I just needed to vent. Yeah, but see, that's what your girls are for. See, you and we get stuff done if it's possible. Well, fine then. You're not there for me emotionally. Well, okay, let's talk about that. Now, I'm going to need you to bend over this couch more. Or I'm going to need you to skip some of these steps of foreplay because what you're saying is I'm going to come home, vent. Now, you know doggone well I can't vent to you. Who said you can't vent to me? You don't have to say it. We both know this. If I vent to you like you vent to me, it's going to be a problem. Now, if she insists and she denies, she's gaslighting you or she's not aware of her own subconscious. Either case, she's not on your level. In that case, go ahead and vent to her just so that she will bounce. You're free. You start over with the next one and you can teach her what the hell she needs to know. But in the way that you communicate as a whole, as a generation, as an age group, Mr. Samuels is spot the F on. Y'all need to listen to that. Because now I'm listening to more and I'm hearing the pattern. His analogy about the fishermen and the fish and talking, that doesn't hold water. Literally, all puns intended, or fish for that matter. However, when you get to the level that he's saying, you got every right to look back at the fish and say, if you don't like the ones that are catching you, or you don't like the bait that's out there, how about you fuck the shuck up? Unless you're going to say what bait it is that you want these fishermen to throw out there to catch you to make your butt happy. If you get to that level he's saying to get to, then you can and you would with a united voice look at the women of your generation and you would say, look, you all got it all jacked up. Now you change who the hell you are, or we're out somewhere else. We can either live by ourselves or we can find women that are going to respect us, but we're not going to stay here with your stank behinds and all you asking for and all that you're not willing to give. I ain't going to do this. I ain't going to do that. He better do this and he better do that. That day is over. But to be able to say this with a unified voice, you got to get to this level that he's talking about. That is true with regard to certain things. The way you communicate. It does turn women off. That's true. I'm not going to sit up here and sugarcoat that either. But I'm not going to pour lemon juice on the pill either by giving it to you and then call you all by name and say everything. I'm also going to admit you didn't know this, and that's not necessarily your fault. You didn't know. But now, if you're hearing this, you do know, share this with others. Share it with others. It is as simple as using facts and observations from yourself and from trusted sources to back up whatever feelings and opinions you have. And if there is none, but you have a hunch, you call it a hunch, you admit to people it's just a hunch, and that you're willing to learn more. And you update opinions based on new information. That's how you do it. That's it. And this sort of thing is very manly, and many women that are attractive still aren't going to see this right off the bat overnight in you, because that's not how they're wired. They never had to be. That's not your fault. It ain't mine. It ain't Mr. Samuel's. It ain't BGS's. And it ain't the fault of people not born yet. You've been deluded by the women in your families and by the women on these romantic comedies that you all had to watch when many of you were growing up. And your mom took over the TV and she had to watch it. Yep, okay, fair enough. Wasn't your fault now. But before you all as a group can learn anything from Mr. Samuels where he is right, you're going to have to face this. You certainly will. See, he's going to sit up and say, well, it's you, it's not them. I'm going to tell you, no. It's your honest mistakes based on what you didn't know. It is their deception and their games intentionally. It is their malice. It is their greed. It is their materialism. And it is their fault. I'm going to tell you that. But he's not going to. However, in order for you to be able to learn what you need to know about yourself, about what you can do, you're going to have to get to a point where you're ready to communicate like you a grown man. And that y'all didn't learn this. So, now you're learning it. Hope that what I said is a benefit. Blackest man on social media, signing black out. Assalamu alaikum and black male power.